not already providing a competitive edge for your company, the race is on. In today's digital economy, you simply must implement a flexible, accountable, business goal-driven, results-oriented, innovative, and collaborative enterprise mobile solution. You know, a framework to create independent applications, one to secure and manage devices, host and administer those applications, cater to the challenges of different industry verticals, and above all, be cost-effective. Here's the big what if. What if your mobile vision could be enabled by a one-stop shop that helped you define your mobile strategy and bring solutions together to mobilize your entire organization? Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, August 26, 2014, and this is Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. I'm your guest host, Frank Baia. The Tech Talk turns to the current debate by CEOs and CIOs over one-stop shops for enterprise mobile solutions. Do they provide effective overall strategy consulting? And can a one-source provider really provide the ultimate solution for every particular challenge and different vertical requirement? Joining the Tech Talk discussion, one-stop shop or a dozen different vendors, who better to answer the big question than Gururaj, CEO of nuVizz. Guru has more than 20 years of experience in organizational strategy, technology implementation, and professional services. Prior to founding nuVizz, Guru worked at IBM in the supply chain strategy practice and in Manhattan Associates professional services organization. Headquartered in Atlanta with a development center in Bangalore, India, nuVizz is rapidly expanding technology solutions and services company providing enterprise mobile solutions and supply chain consulting services. The Tech Talk takes a hard look at enterprise mobile solutions as we speak with an industry-leading expert and CEO of nuVizz, Gururaj. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Guru, welcome to Tech Talk.
Thanks, Frank.
Well, I think our audience is certainly familiar with the general mobility era that's we're all involved with today, certainly even consumer mobility. But obviously we want to talk today about enterprise mobility. A lot of people define it in different ways. Let's start with, how do you define enterprise mobility?
Frank, I think that's a very good question. You know, we all, as consumers, we all know mobility is in front of us every day. But enterprises have slowly started to look at the potential of mobility within what is come to known as the B2E space, business to employee space, right? Most of the consumers that are used to using mobile in their day-to-day life, they're also employees of businesses. So if you just flip that, you can see those employees expecting the same level of agility in making use of mobility within enterprises. So that's where we focus as, you know, when I say enterprise mobility, it's all about how can we leverage the latest mobile technology in making life easier for our employees within the enterprise. I mean, you know, enterprises are in very early stages of this, and at best, this whole thing is in its infancy for so many different reasons.
Kind of interesting when you think about the ultimate impact as we continuously evolve these things hybrid on each other. More of the culture begins to adapt, and things that might have been disruptive become pretty commonplace. You've commented a couple of times about the early stages of this evolution. Maybe expand a little bit on that. What's the future going to look like in the next couple of years?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as I said, we as consumers are very familiar with mobility, right? But when you flip that and look at from an enterprise standpoint, even though the same technology is applied to solve some business challenges, the equation is totally different when I'm talking about enterprises. That's because of few reasons. One is the entire novelty of the technology. Of course, we all know and understand that IT, the information technology within the enterprises, are the gatekeepers of any new technology. So before they can let new technology into the enterprise, they want to make sure that it is secure. You know, it can talk nicely within the existing ecosystem of different applications that they have within the enterprise. And only then they will start looking at how to leverage the technology in solving the business problems, right? So given the whole flex in this space, we all know that what's happening with respect to the different vendors, different devices, and all that coming into play. The enterprises are constantly trying to find the answers for questions such as, how do I secure my devices? How do I make sure my data is secure, right? And as I said, only after that they will get to start looking at how can I leverage that technology. So unfortunately, in this space, the technology is moving so fast, but at the same time, the other point is, Frank, that enterprises cannot also afford to step back and say, okay, let's wait for one more year and figure out how all this plays out. By then, you're going to be too late in the game, right? So you have to be in the forefront of this technology, but at the same time, be very clear about what is important from a traditional management of applications within the enterprise standpoint.
So much of what's going on circles around trust and the ability to be able to adjust to the technology, as you're pointing out, and change cultures and almost belief structures in terms of the processes that have been established for so long. And I think, again, to reinforce what you're saying, it's hard to have innovation in an atmosphere of insecurity. How do you try certain? One of the great parts that we enjoy here at Tech Talk is that we talk to most every vertical, in fact, every vertical in the technology industry. And you hear a lot about clouds, and you hear a lot about cognitive and even predictive information. Analytics was the word I was kind of stumbling around to find. One of the things I was talking to a CEO the other day was about cloud accounting and the idea that everything is going to be so much geared to the now, so that everyone will be participating in the every minute of that enterprise process from what would have been an accounting standpoint, that there's actually no accounting that's going on. The information is there all the time. And in order for that to happen, obviously, as you're pointing out, there's got to be a secure environment for the exchange of that data.
Yeah, absolutely. The mobility is made for cloud. There is no dispute around that. I know most of the enterprises, even who used to be very secure-minded and they want to hold on to their data, they are looking at cloud as a viable option. But on the flip side, cloud has become to some extent a misnomer. I mean, people equate cloud means I don't have to worry about it. Yeah. It's not that. Cloud still has to run somewhere. Someone has to still maintain that, right? So you got to ensure the cloud is really secure, and there are ways to ensure that your data is secure in the cloud as well. And a lot of different vendors, the technology vendors that are coming into the mobile space, especially, they understand this and they try to they work with the companies in educating them what exactly mean by the cloud. And then where does the data reside, right? As I said, going back to what I said earlier, it's mobility within enterprise is a different animal because mobility cannot, exist in vacuum there. Most of the consumer apps, when we look at it, they are mostly self-contained. They are single apps. Everything is inside the application. For the most part, it stays on the device. But when I'm talking about enterprises, we look at mobility as another medium of surfacing the data. Right, but in the back end, you still have all your legacy systems that have been built over 10, 20, whatever number of years, and they'll still continue to be the masters of the data that you serve up to the mobile device. So in that environment, it is not only important to figure out what is the best way to devise your mobile applications, right? What is the best user experience and all that, but more importantly, it is very important to figure out what data can I surface? How do I surface? How do I ensure that they're talking to each other nicely and in a secure fashion, right? And that's where I think some of the mobile vendors make a difference versus other vendors in the space.
Well, that's really, I think, a good point to make a segue as it relates to nuVizz and what you're doing. Let's go into a little bit about the vision that you guys have for enterprise mobility. And actually, I kind of put you on the spot, but does your solution portfolio support that vision?
Absolutely. I think that's a good point. When we looked at this space first, we looked at consumer mobility. Of course, as I said, it's there for everyone to see. But when I started looking at enterprises, our background is working with large and medium enterprises and trying to implement technology solutions. So when we looked at, hey, mobility is there, it's so powerful, why are enterprises not using this technology to the full potential? So when we started to look at that, we soon realized, as I said, enterprises want to move forward, but at the same time, they are really still trying to and struggling to find answers for some of the basic questions, as we talked about the security, the data device management, and creating applications on different types of devices and all that. So in catering to those challenges, there are different types of vendors, right? If I may take a few seconds, just it helps to contrast ourselves.
Put it into context. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, right. So there are a few couple of type of vendors here. One are classic mobile application development vendors, who basically you tell them what you want, they will create an application, right, and give it to you. That's classic case of vendors. And then there's another set of vendors, technology vendors, who are MDM, for example, mobile device management vendors, or mobile enterprise application platform vendors, right, or mobile development and application platform vendors, who basically cater to what I call infrastructure challenges, right, managing devices or managing your applications, or creating mobile device independent applications and so on and so forth. But nobody is looking at it, Frank, in this space from what I call a top-down approach. The way we look at nuVizz is, hey, as a business, you want to solve some problems, right? And there are some use cases for which mobility is a great tool to leverage. So what is that you're trying to solve? And then let us help you create that solution. And by the way, we also understand, and it's not only important for you to create those applications, but you also need these infrastructure components, as I call them, to support that vision and to support that business application. One very important thing, Frank, is a lot of people where they go wrong in this space is they try to do mobile projects just like traditional projects. But it's a paradigm shift when you look at it, not only from the way creating applications, most importantly, maintaining and managing mobile applications, especially with the devices when they are spread over thousands of miles where you don't have physical access to those devices. It's a different paradigm shift, and IT has to get around that, and they are slowly trying to find solutions for that, right? So that's where nuVizz comes into play. We look at it from the top down, and as I said, look at the business problem. How can you solve? First of all, is that a good candidate for mobility? Just because there is a mobile device in my hand, I cannot just use it for anything and everything under the sun, right? There are only few use cases where it makes sense for me to leverage that device, right? It starts from there. And then how do I create device-independent applications? It needs to run on iOS, Windows, and Android, or what have you. And then comes the management and the deployment aspect of it. So we at nuVizz have a portfolio of not only software solutions, right, the infrastructure solutions, but more importantly, the business consulting expertise to make that whole solution work for any enterprise.
You mentioned earlier about the early stages of mobility as far as enterprises are concerned, and obviously with any early stage situation, there's a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of confusion, unfortunately, a lot of trial and error. In the vendor landscape that you're talking about, if I'm an enterprise, how do I matriculate through that type of situation? I mean, obviously what you're saying is that certainly it would be better to get a sort of a one-stop, all-in-one from the top-bottom, as you describe it, from a single source, including the capacity to make sure that not only do you need the mobility, but it's a secure environment to implement it. Talk a little bit about the nuVizz difference, and how do you communicate that difference to potential prospects? And really from I'm going to give you an opportunity to maybe do a little pitch, and that is, what would you recommend for enterprises that are evaluating mobility?
Yep, a great question. See, enterprises definitely are looking at mobility from a long-term standpoint. It's no more the question where, even like as 6 months ago, I used to talk to CIOs of the company. I would ask them, hey, what's your mobile strategy? And they would come back and say, yeah, we are trying to create an iOS application. That was the extent of mobile strategy, if you will. But now the whole shift has occurred in this space where enterprises are looking at mobility as a long-term vision standpoint, right? They do recognize that it's no more going to be a one or two application. There is so much demand for mobile applications from within the enterprises, right? So they have recognized that, and they want to look at it from a platform standpoint. But then on the same note, when you look at the technology vendors out there that provide solutions for that enterprise mobile space, the technology space is so in flux, right? We all recognize that iOS, Android keep coming up with upgrades every day, and the leaders of today in this mobile technology may not be there 6 months down the line at all. And the niche, smaller players in this space are the ones who are going to bring in innovative solutions. So as a company, if I'm looking at it in leveraging mobility, I do recognize that I have to invest in long-term mobile vision. But at the same time, from a software solution standpoint, I do not feel comfortable in investing in a big platform upfront. So I was telling somebody earlier today, like if I'm going to buy SAP or Oracle, for example, an ERP solution, I can shell out millions of dollars because I know it's not going to change in the next 6 months or 2 years or even 10 years because it's an established market space. But on the mobile, in the mobile market space, I cannot do that. So what is the situation? How can enterprises attack that problem, right? So that's where we as nuVizz comes into play. What we do as a company is we build the platform. We build the mobile platform that gives you all the infrastructure components for, as I said, not only creating the mobile application, but managing, deploying, and the whole 9 yards. But we don't want you to buy it up front, right? So what we are telling our customers and prospects that, hey, we do understand the situation you are in, right? You don't want to invest up front, but let us make that investment in building this technology and keeping up to date with this technology. Let us talk about your business problem. So, the advantage of this for our prospects and customers is that they get the best of both worlds, right? They get the benefit of the platform, which has been built from ground up in looking at security, the management, the deployment aspect of all that, plus also focusing on the business challenges and providing the solutions for the challenges that you are facing right now.
So that you can deal with the incremental and the immediate, but still look at the greater holistic potential of the interfacing of all of the mobility ultimately working with each other.
Absolutely. The way I put it is it's the lowest risk, highest ROI for our customers and prospects. So we take on the risk of building the platform and keeping up to date, working with all the upgrades that's happening in the technology space. We give the benefit of that platform to our customers without them having to invest in the platform itself. So
it's a form of insurance. I mean, if you think in terms of, one of the things that we've talked about again, and we were mentioning that I often say it's the same thing, only different, no matter whether it's logistics or health IT, we're all encountering the disruptive aspects of things like cloud and mobility and high-speed connectivity and the ramifications of analytics that we talked about before and the impact that they have. The bottom line of it is that you need the freedom to experiment. You need the freedom to make sure that you can try an opportunity, try something out, and still be sure that you're not, as you point out, literally investing millions of dollars in something that'll shift. Because the other side that we talk about along with the same thing, only different, is the ridiculous. There's not even a word for it anymore. It's not dynamic fluidity, or it's more like phantasmagoric. I mean, the change is so rapid. How does an enterprise make a decision? And it sounds to me you've given them the way to do it.
Yep, that's absolutely right. I mean, our focus is, what I call from threefold focus. One is creating industry-leading platform, right? Keeping up with the technology that gives you all the infrastructure components. And the second part of our solution, holistic solution, is the consulting aspect of it. We believe that is what is lacking in this space. As I said, the vendors who create mobile applications will just create the application. You tell them what you want, and they'll give you that. And the infrastructure vendors will give you the infrastructure, and it's up to you to put all of them together to come up with a business solution. So our approach is let us start there, and then we will figure out what needs to be brought to the table, whether it's technology platform. At the end of the day, our platform may not be the right solution for you, for the use case that you are trying to create. I am absolutely fine with that. We'll leverage something else that makes sense for the specific use case that is in front of us, right? I think that is an approach that is lacking in this space. And as you rightly suggested, given the state we are in, I think I believe that is the right approach.
Well, I don't. It's a blessing in so many different ways because it allows me to plan ahead. I mean, I understand that there's still a risk factor to the degree, and there are no absolutes. But if there's the old cliche of the story about the white rabbit. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Yeah. If you don't know what the end solution is going to be, the immediate solution is going to be an expense. That's not an investment that you're going to be able to amortize by looking forward. And on top of that, looking forward with the direction of the platform that you're talking about gives me some sense of decision-making to allocate budgets to be able to invest in that next step. I mean, I think it's absolutely amazing. I think it's a brilliant. Of all people, I'm sitting here interviewing you, and you're the people that are doing it. But hats off, Guru. This sounds extremely important. As much as it is a great business opportunity, it's definitely a major game changer in terms of the evolution of technology. Congratulations, great job. We're excited for what you're doing. Unfortunately, one of the things that we're doing is quickly running out of time, so I'm going to have to say thank you so much for taking time out of I'm sure a busy but exciting schedule at nuVizz, and look forward to the opportunity of catching up with you and seeing how great things are going in the future.
Thanks, Frank. Thank you. Glad to be here.